Peace on earth. Ethan Indigo Smith here. Well. For those that may not know, I authored my first book, The Complete Patriot's Guide to Oligarchical Collectivism. And I penned it in honor, of course, to George Orwell, who in 1984 has the book within the book, The Theory and Practice to Oligarchical Collectivism. It is portrayed to be the evidence for a way to counter the institutional oligarchical collectivism that was existent in the fictional world. So it was a fictional book for the fictional world that was presenting a solution. I, in honor of Orwell and that book, kind of tried to create a non-fictional presentation of what that book could have been if it were in this reality and not the made-up world of 1984. And of course, it's incomplete in 1984. There are only sections that we are revealed. One of the ideas in the theory and practice to oligarchical collectivism in 1984 is that there are three types of people in the world. And I put forth that there are four types of people in the world. In the book within the book, there are the high, the middle, and the low. In the story 1984, there are the proles, the inner party, and the outer party in correspondence with these three types. I put forth that there are the idiots, zealots, elitists, and patriots. And, if I could give myself a pat on the back for at least approaching the schematic of the political subject through nonpartisan perspective on the interplay between institutions and individuals. And I propose that is essentially what history is the story of individuals and institutions and the interplay thereof. Idiots refuse new information. Zealots refute new information. Elitists use and employ information and keep it from the idiots and zealots predominantly to make selfish gains. And patriots put forth the information that they understand and share it in order to lift up predominantly the patriots, everyone, but predominantly the idiots and zealots. I use the allegory of the cave and several instances to explore this fourfold consciousness schematic in the Patriot's Guide. And so I've been making some observations recently, and I wanted to share. Excuse me for my long-winded trying to share my book, but I wanted to share some ideas pertinent to the research that I put into this book and the basis of my understanding that I explored in this book. And really, we're at a phase now where, again, Orwell made this phrase that is so accurate, oligarchical collectivism. And we're seeing this play out right now, where it is all oligarchical collectivism. China and the United States, perhaps being portrayed as the spectrum of different types of governments on the planet. Oh, peace, SMS. Thanks for listening, and thanks for the input. Appreciate that. And so we can see that the difference between governments is not necessarily what they say it is. It is the slant that they work through and unfold in, right? The slant that the internal group is under pressure by, and the slant that they operate vis-a-vis outsiders. So the Complete Patriot's Guide led me to the Matrix of Four with the four archetypes. And that's the last little thing I need to share there. I'll get back. Okay. So there is an interplay between institutions and institutions as well, right? I find that there is a way to comprehend what's going on when we understand this beginning polarity, that there are institutions, there are individuals. And as I put forward these ideas, when I first even said the word oligarchical, people laughed at me. And because they didn't know what that word was, and I sounded like a robot. So oligarchical collectivism, I just call it the O word, right? Because it's got such kind of a stigma on it, it's one of those things that are least discussed. Whenever I hear the word oligarchy used by the mainstream media, it's to describe a Russian, an oligarch in Russia. Well, there are certainly oligarchs in the West too. Elon Musk just visited China as this celebration of oligarchical collectivism with Donald Trump and Z unfolded, which got me thinking about some of these important ideas I wanted to share. I think that something that people miss between in understanding the interplay between institutions and individuals is often people will get this, but they miss the subtlety of it. That within the interplay of institutions and individuals, there is the overt and the covert. And so there are covert fundamentals that are at play and that unfold, and there are the overt. And we really will only kind of get to understand what the covert might be later, or by way of leaks or by way of inference. But this is super important to understand. Now, another spectrum or polarity, if you will, that is unfolding is internal and external. Whenever there is institutional mandates, laws, or what have you, and or actions, we can see this unfold most extremely, but most pertinently, in war. There is external wars, but there is also an internal war whenever this takes place. There are internal actions that are like on certain groups or the entirety of a group that take place when there is an external war. May I suggest that the Patriot Act and Citizens United might be examples of these taking place in the United States when there was an external war that enabled internal pressures and internal battles, internal war, if you will. So there's the overt and the covert. There's the internal and the external. There is also the fundamental aspects of these might be helpful or hindrance, right? This is something that I think people may not see as frequently, as easily, that there are kind of multiple ways that some might be helped and some might be hindered internally and externally by way of government mandates and actions. It wasn't a couple of weeks ago that I saw a lot of people were perpetuating the idea that the US war on Iran was actually an attack on China, or an indirect, uh, not attack, but a way to inhibit their oil productions and oil imports for their country, predominantly from Iran, and a way to impact their economy negatively, or so on and so forth. There may be some truth to this, but I think also what people fail to understand is that there are, again, helpful and endurance aspects that come into play. And these actions actually sometimes do overtly hinder or overtly help, but they also covertly hinder or covertly help. Another example of what is unfolding right now, vis-a-vis this positive and negative, internal, external, covert and overt, help and hinder idea, that all the interplay between institutions and individuals have, and that we can look for if we may not know or see or be revealed them in the present. We can kind of look for them when we know these polarities or these spectrums. Another thing that is happening, or another way to kind of, forgive my obsessive compulsiveness, but another way to perceive the circumstances that are happening is by way of a commonly understood polarity that is actually only a half of a useful tool, if you will. By what I what I mean by that is, there is the economic tool, or scam, really, if you will, of pump and dump. And that's one polarity, if you will, or a two-phase process that is describing the way that people will use the bloated price of a stock or a resource or whatever you, to make a bunch of money and then sell it, pump it up and then dump it and make a bunch of money, and they get the next MySpace. But there's also crush and plush. I see it, that these two-phase processes, when polarized in idea, you really see how they're a tool to observe what's going on. The crush and plush, this is when you drive down the value of something and then buy it when it's very cheap, and then you're living plush, right? So I think it's important to understand that there are these modalities of scams or profiteering, if you like, or setups, even in government mandates, to enable certain oligarchical collectivism, wherever one might be. Specifically, what is happening right now, we can, usually it's easy for an individual to sense how the external war is helping and hindering. It's often really difficult to sense how the internal war is helping or hindering. And I think in regards to what's going on now, a big one is going to be the hindrance involved in food production, agricultural land, land in general. That is all going through a process of crush right now. to the means or end of plush for those that will eventually buy these resources on the cheap. I speculate based on inferences and, again, the polarity or the spectrums I just put forth. Well, I guess a combination of both those. So I appreciate people listening to what I hope is way helpful kind of insights. And check out my books. That'll be very helpful if you find these ideas interesting or you think someone you know might as well. But I hope these observations are as useful tools to you as they are to me. So peace on earth. Ethan Indigo. Let's see if I can figure this out.